Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is a returning guest on the show. It's been a while. His name is Bernie Boudreau. He's the Chief Executive Officer for Connecticut Food Bank. First of all, Bernie, welcome back to the show.
Nice to be back, Sean.
But when you were here last time, it was in the same field but a different position and in a different state, no less, right?
The little state of Rhode Island.
Right.
That's where I grew up.
So the last time you were on the show, it was for representing Save Rhode Island.
Serve.
Okay, Serve Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And now it's the Connecticut Food Bank.
Connecticut Food Bank.
So how'd you make the change? How did that come about?
Well, I was at Serve Rhode Island for 8 years, and before that I had about 13 years in food banking, which I really liked.
Yeah.
So I felt I did my time, with Serve Rhode Island. We did a lot of things, including Misquamicut cleanup and that kind of thing.
As a matter of fact, the last time you were on the show, we taped more than one show in a day, and we were talking about the it was right after Sandy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I had mentioned that even to this day, there still might be a business or two that isn't 100% back, and I'm sure your involvement with trying to help anybody you could get back on their feet in some way was invaluable when it happened.
Well, people appreciate it. We had over 1,200 volunteers at that time, and we also cleaned up the pond that had a lot of about 10 or 15 buildings got demolished and got thrown right across the pond. So we fixed that.
Yeah.
So it was good work, but I wanted to get back to something very direct, helping people, and food banking and getting food to people who are food insecure, going hungry. Has always been something that's been highly motivating for me, and I feel like I can do it well.
Right, and so you kept doing it, and an opportunity presented it to yourself for
That's
Connecticut.
right. Yeah.
Now, as far as Connecticut goes, where is the state as far as the need?
Well, unfortunately, the state has, 10 years ago, the state was ranked 8th best in the country in terms of food security.
Right.
So, that was good. It's in 10 years, it's gone from 8th to 23rd.
What happened?
Well, I think it's the economy. I think
Yeah.
a lot of jobs are lost out of the state. Also, it's still one of the wealthiest states in the country. And so where you see extreme differences between rich and poor, you're going to see a growing hunger problem. And it just inequality creates more social problems. And that's what's driving the hunger in Connecticut.
So tell me about the history and the mission of the Connecticut Food Bank.
Yeah. Started in 1992 and started small, like most food banks, operating out of a very small facility, and found a place in East Haven, warehouse. And they persisted in that warehouse through many years of growth. And just this past fall of 2015, they moved into an 88,000 square foot brand new facility in Wallingford.
When you outgrow a place, that's a good thing, especially for what you do.
Well, I think so, but it's also an indication of the growing problem of
Good
hunger
point.
in America.
Yeah.
And while food banking and food charity has been tremendously important in addressing the need, we need to be partnered with really a robust government program of food stamps, or SNAP now they call it, and other kinds of food commodities, so that in combination with government, we can tackle the problem of hunger.
And unfortunately, in the state lately, all we've heard about is budget cuts. Got to cut this out, got to cut that. A lot of jobs lost, like you said, but state jobs too. And that certainly cannot help your situation.
No, it makes it more difficult because we do need greater state contribution to something called the Connecticut Food Assistance Program. But the state, cutting $1 billion a year on a $20 billion base is meant all programs have been cut back, and it's been very tough. Still, we advocate for the needs of the people who are trying to put food on the table. Many working poor have to use our services because their pays aren't high enough to pay the rent, pay the expenses. So we need all people we need government, and we need many more private individuals to contribute to what we're doing so that we can meet the need.
As CEO, are you in Hartford a lot? Are you lobbying? Are you asking for grants? How does that all work?
Well, not so much yet. I mean, my focus has been to reach out to the grassroots. We're in 6 counties. There's the Gemma Moran United Way Food Center here is a food bank that's part of our 6-county work. And the 2 counties.
And they do great work, by the way.
Yeah, they do fabulous work. And then there's Food Share that takes care of Tolland and Hartford County. So with those 3 food banks, we get the state covered.
Even Fairfield County, or?
Fairfield as
Okay.
well. So in the past month and a half, we've had 11 community meetings from Stanford, and next week we'll be in New London, but all over the state, really meeting with our food pantries that are member agencies of the food bank. So the way the food goes through the food banks to these outlets that are quite often church-based or
Yeah.
community-based. And it's a great system that's developed over about 3 decades.
It's like a spoken wheel kind of thing, like airports, like the hub,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're a clearinghouse, basically.
Yeah, as a central,
Yeah.
we take in a lot of food and distribute it out. We have trucks going out, 5 trucks going out every day, delivering food to food pantries out there in the community. But we've been listening to the needs from their perspective, because what's happened with the growth of hunger, we are able to build a new food bank, and we can now double or triple our output. But these food pantries and soup kitchens haven't had the same kind of investment and resources. They need refrigerators, they need more space if they're going to expand. So we're trying to assess that and figure out how do we increase their capacity to feed more people.
You know what I noticed? Some of the food pantries, and we've had some of them on here to really, suit the needs of the individuals in the communities, especially the lower income ones. They're starting to go a little bit more mobile and really going out to the neighborhoods instead of having a central location that everybody comes to. It's still there, but this is just another little thing they can add to, right?
Yeah, we have 33 drop sites with our mobile pantry, which is really good because what that allows you to do is move a lot of perishable food.
Right.
And more we have produce donated and other perishable foods, and we can get that out quickly to the community. Sometimes if we have to go through the regular system, the produce sits around too long, and by the time it gets to the food pantry, half of it's not good.
Oh, it's a waste.
Yeah, it's a big waste. So as fast as we can get it out, we try to get it out.
Is it always now, do you still, because of the issue with perishable food, do you still always try to advocate for non-perishable food items whenever possible, just because it lasts?
We don't do that as much.
No?
Basically, we don't promote food drives as much because really the cost in trying to produce that amount of food by people going to the store and buying food, we could get 5 or 10 times as much food if they gave us the money. And
Right.
we convert the money into bulk purchase possibilities.
Which is cheaper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and value-added processing, which means in the case of produce, paying for the trucking of produce. We'll get donated truckloads of produce, but we have to pay for the shipping. So donor dollars are best spent that way as opposed to collecting canned goods and drives. Although, we're glad to get food drives. It's helpful, but it makes up a very small portion of what we distribute.
But one thing it may be a small portion of what comes in, but it's good as far as awareness and getting the word out, right?
It is good for that, absolutely. And people can get involved with the food bank. They can come to Wallingford and help sort food. We put together boxes of food for the elderly on a federal program. It's the senior meals program. It's not Meals on Wheels, but it's a box of food that lasts a week and a half. And we do about 1,600 of those every month, and they go out to about 30 different places.
Are you always looking for volunteers?
We are,
Yeah.
yeah. And more we're looking for volunteers that can also be deployed in the community.
Do they have to have any kind of special skill set or anything? Or
Not really,
Yeah.
just goodwill and in some cases, an ability to lift a 35-pound box
Right.
of food. But more and more with our mobile pantries, we need volunteers to assist the clients that are coming to get food, and to also give them information about other ways they can get help, so that we know it's going to take more than just food to change people's situations. They need to know about other resources and opportunities.
you mentioned, at the top of the show, we were 8th down to, what was the number?
23rd.
Where is Connecticut in regards to like states around us and maybe country, nation-wise? Is it not good or?
Well, we're
Yeah.
ranking about in the middle now,
Yeah.
and that's a big drop down from where Connecticut was 10 years ago. I worked in Rhode Island for a long time at the food bank, and it was always sort of in tough shape. So its hunger problem didn't change as dramatically, although it was worse. And I think it's still it's probably comparable to Connecticut right
In,
now.
in Rhode Island, because of the size of the state, does one, does Serve Rhode Island serve the whole state, basically? Is that how it worked, or?
Well, Serve Rhode Island
Right.
was the Volunteer Center
Right.
and National Service. It's the Rhode Island Community Food Bank
Right.
that serves the whole state.
Right.
Yeah.
In Connecticut, it's a little bit bigger, so like you had mentioned, it's kind of broken up into different counties and
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
sections of the state.
Yep.
Now, it really starts to hit home when you hear those statistics. It's not just people in general, it's not just adults, but children are
Right.
going hungry too.
Yeah.
And I think that really tugs at the heartstrings of people, and when they hear that, when they see that, it kind of gives them a spark to want to do something, do what they can.
One of the interesting programs that we have and very helpful is called the Kids Backpack Program. And we're in about 110 schools. And every week we deliver a package of 4 meals that goes into a backpack. So when the kid goes home on the weekend, they have some food. And it's developed out of a need where teachers and school nurses and principals have noticed kids coming in on a Monday very hungry.
Yeah.
So they might, school breakfast is just a small portion, but they have a big deficit. And so, they're trying to prevent them coming in on Monday hungry like that. We do 3,300 backpacks every week
Wow.
throughout the school year. Unfortunately, the need is more like 25,000. And so we're trying to figure a way to kind of have greater reach with the kids and to get to their families and connect their families to other food resources so that their families aren't going hungry. Because a kid will go home with a backpack, but they likely have siblings and
Right.
other family members.
That thing's getting
they
wiped
have
out,
that
yeah.
They share it
Yeah.
with everybody. So,
So they're still hungry Monday morning when they're coming into school.
well, not as hungry.
Yeah.
But it's a way to get to those hungry kids. Otherwise, it's hard to find these kids. Where would you find them? And so we're trying to use that program to get to the families to provide really some bigger help to them.
How do you get the word out about that? Do you go through the school system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The schools manage it very well. They have a very discreet way of identifying kids, so that the kids don't feel stigmatized
Right.
as a hungry kid. But typically in a school, we'll have a school of 400 kids. There'll be about 100 or so that could use the program, but we only have about 40 backpacks. So there's 60 kids that
Yeah.
can't be helped. So what we're trying to do is have the kids use the backpack program for 3 to 6 weeks and resolve their home hunger problem by connecting them to other food resources, and then they can recycle the backpack to the next kid that needs help.
I want to take a break and come back. I want you to give out the website for people to go and learn more, and then we've got a lot more to get to.
Yeah, it's ctfoodbank.org.
Okay, simple website. We've got the graphic up on the screen for you. Bernie Boudreau is the Chief Executive Officer for Connecticut Food Bank. We'll take a break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Bernie Boudreau, CEO of Connecticut Food Bank. When we went to the break, I asked you to give out the website. What's on the website for people to go and see?
All kinds of information. In fact, if you're someone who is in need of food, you can find it through the website about where to go and places that you can seek help. But there are other ways to volunteer and get connected, ways to donate, of course. We have lots of information about hunger and its causes and, the food insecurity data and statistics. So there's a lot of information, special events that are happening. This is currently Food Action Month, Hunger Action Month.
National End Hunger Month, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a bit. Can you talk about that a little bit? That's a big
Well,
deal.
it's an awareness effort to try to get people to think about the problem of hunger. And we want people to think about it all year round. But so September, though, we try to really make a concentrated effort to get people to think about it. So I did what they call a SNAP challenge. The SNAP is the food stamp program.
Right.
It's a supplemental nutrition assistance program. The SNAP challenge is to try to live for a week or a month, if you're brave, on the amount of money that you get from food stamps. So in my case, it would be $4.11 per day.
And that's based on your income and everything, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works? Okay.
So can you imagine
Right.
having $4 a day to get everything you need to drink and to eat? And so I did that for a week last week. And
How much
wrote
weight
about
did you
it.
lose?
I lost about 5 pounds, but I I couldn't do it completely.
Yeah.
There were times I was just so hungry I had to eat. And so my conclusion is you can't live on that little amount. And that's not really a surprise. The food stamp program was never designed to be a full supplement to everything for the whole month. It typically, food stamp benefits or SNAP typically lasts 2 weeks, maybe 3.
And they're designed to augment another source of
Whether it's income or, typically income. And but we're finding that people who don't have jobs, who are making so little money that all of the income is to pay rent, they get SNAP benefits for 2 weeks, and then they have to go to a food pantry to get the rest of their food. So they patch together these resources. About 45% of the people we serve, though, are not eligible for SNAP benefits.
because of their income? Or-
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the United Ways have done this study, and they've identified this population. They're asset limited, income constrained, and employed. They call it ALICE. And that's a huge population that are above the poverty level, but not high enough income to meet their needs.
The
And
poverty
so
level is pretty low, isn't it?
it's very low,
Yeah.
and it's poverty really is almost. A lot of programs, federal programs, use 180% of the poverty level as the eligibility guidelines because the level itself is so low it's almost meaningless.
So you had mentioned because of September being National End Hunger Awareness Month, basically, you want people to remember all year round, if possible. And that got me to thinking about as we tape the show, we're coming into fall. The holidays will be here, the winter will be here, the cold weather will be here, and that's when the food banks really start needing, or I don't know if it's people start thinking about it more, but they certainly need the donations more. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's we have this great tradition in America, and it's harvest time. The peak event is Thanksgiving, and it's a holiday of abundance, right? And so there's a real need for everyone to participate in that. So before food banking, there's been this tradition of turkey drives and all of that that played into the community helping the needy, people who needed help around the holidays. So that has grown into a tradition. So the holidays in a way are more expensive for a household to kind of, fully participate in American life. The hunger factor, though, we see more happening in the summer months, and that's because kids they're not in school, where they would get over the course of the summer 100 meals. So that's a 100-meal deficit that faces a family every summer because the kids aren't in school. So it really hunger is year round. I think the two heaviest times are summer and winter. In terms of the burden on the family.
Kids are more active in the summer. They're running around. They're burning more energy. Hence, you need more food, right?
Yeah.
And the awareness isn't there, like you said.
No, it isn't. And my mother had to put a padlock on the refrigerator door because there were so many of us around. She didn't, but she wanted to, and there wouldn't be any food left by the time she got home.
Right. You have some stats and some slides here, and we'll put up on the screen too. What do we want to talk about here?
Well, this is the food insecurity rate that if you take a look at over time in the U.S. Department of Agriculture Food Nutrition Service or the Economic Research Service, they do a survey every September. They call 65,000 households, and they ask a battery of questions that get at hunger, the problem of food insecurity. And this has been going on for 20 years now. So we have this data over time. It's time tested. It's proven. And what this is showing is that the top red line is the national rate. So Connecticut has been under the national rate, but 10 years ago, we're way under.
Yeah.
And now we're just almost the same.
You're almost at the meeting point.
Right. What's a little more disturbing, there's a category of very low food security. That means these are the people that are in this category of food insecure, but they're actually having reduced meals or no meals at several times during the month. And they're experiencing hunger. So this is the most severe cases. What's disturbing, again, is that Connecticut has gone from under the national average to above the national average
Yeah.
in terms of that. And it's it's many people. This curve here is 183,662 households. That's how many.
Do they try to get when they're calling people? Do they get as much of a cross section as they can, or do they try to keep it to those in need, or maybe the lower income people?
No, it's a scientifically
Okay.
controlled model where they do random
Right.
selection. The sampling for each state is in a couple thousand usually, but it's they have a statistical figure that they call the 90th percentile for confidence of the numbers. So these numbers are legitimate, and unfortunately, we would like not to believe them, but we have to accept the fact that they're there, and it means in round figures is about half a million in Connecticut people who are food insecure. So that's 13% of the state's population, and that's at least double what our capacity is. Right now, we're feeding about 140,000 people every month.
Yeah.
So in our service area, I mentioned the difference.
Right.
In our 6-county service area, there are over 300,000 in need. So a little less than half of the need. So that's why we have to grow to impact more.
How are the other places doing? Like, depending on where you are in the state, is there a difference?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what's going on. Food Share, they do a great job up there, but they're coming in at about the same ratio.
Do you guys interact with each other much?
We do,
Yeah.
yeah. We're actually talking about a statewide campaign to raise awareness, and we're working with Gemma Moran on that as well. And as tough as times are right now for the state, budget-wise, our state of Connecticut needs to do more. It needs to contribute more. Massachusetts has a state-funded food assistance program that is about 5 times what Connecticut is per capita.
Wow.
So, Connecticut needs to catch up.
Are there states that are in worse shape? I'm sure there are. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well Rhode Island's doing, actually.
Why is there such a passion for you? Even when you change jobs, you stay in the same field, but there's a real passion for you. I've always found that when somebody's that passionate about it, they have there's a vested interest in some way, shape, or form.
I kind of, I grew up in a family of 8, and
there was almost a padlock on your fridge.
Yeah, we had hungry years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough. Both my parents worked full time, and there was a time when my dad was sick and he was hospitalized for a while. We really depended on the charity of others, to kind of get certain meals on the table, and so I know it from experience, and I know how important it is to have a caring, generous system out there that's going to help people.
You were destined to go into that field even as a young person,
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I got my college degrees and all that stuff so that I can, have the tools to really do a community planning approach to this. I mention that because to build more capacity, we have to look at each community of need, in the state, and really work with the agencies there and figure out how do we build capacity? How do we share among? There may be a Salvation Army that has a truck. There'll be a couple of other food pantries that might have a cooler or a freezer, and by combining their resources, they have more capacity.
In your opinion, should there not be the kind of food hunger that there exists? And there should be no excuse for it?
Yes, in my opinion,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a matter of national policy. In the 70s, because of the generosity of federal programs and the food stamp program, we almost ended hunger in America. So hunger in America has evolved out of growing income inequality in our country, but also a reduction of federal and state commitment to feeding the hungry. That started with the Reagan administration a long time ago. So what do people do when things change? Well, they do what they have to do. So what grew up in all of that? Hundreds of thousands of people and organizations all over the country are meeting the need as best they can. They can't possibly meet all of the need, and that's part of my message. We need that partnership with government programs. But out of that necessity has come the good thing in all of that is that there's this community of caring people that go from a small church-based outfit to a bigger community agency that are taking care of folks. And when that means that they're getting some food, but they're also getting some attention from people who can talk about what else they can do, you know, some place where people can get a sense of relief and support. Government doesn't always provide that very well. So that's the good side.
One more time on the website for people to go and learn more and maybe help out if they can.
Yeah, it's ctfoodbank.org. And we are looking for people's support. We need support. We need volunteers. We need people to advocate, you know, with us for more resources. I mean, our theory of change, I'll just put that up, is that we're trying to bring people from poverty to prosperity, at least for those who can work. This green bar is our intervention. We're providing food resources that goes along with housing and health care. But these other things have to be working. There have to be education and training opportunities. There has to be gainful employment. And in all of this, we have to advocate for a whole system that's going to lift people out. And that's what we're promoting. It takes everybody. It takes a big village to make this happen.
Bernie Boudreau, Chief Executive Officer for Connecticut Food Bank. We learned a lot. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, and we hope to see you again soon.
You're very welcome.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.